So you know what we're going to do on this very stormy, cozy fall day? We are going to film my October wrap-up because I read an amazing 10 books, almost 11. Might be 11 if I finish a book today because this is technically the day before the 1st of November, but if not, 10 is still quite an impressive number for me. So now let us get started with this October wrap-up. Hello everyone, it is Samantha. I hope you guys had a wonderful October. I cannot believe it, but we have actually reached November. Don't know where this year has gone. It has flown by, but we are finally reaching my favorite time of the year, which is the holiday season. So you're going to start seeing Christmas stuff popping up in my videos because we do decorate early because I like Christmas and so does my family, and I'm totally okay with that. But that has nothing to do with today's video. Today I'm here to go over the books that I read in October. As I said in the intro, I read 10 books, which is like insane. I never read that many books in a month. I think I did it one other month this year, might have been like May, but I haven't done it since. So I was quite impressed with myself. I was in a really reading mood, I guess. It might be 11 because I might finish Sharp Objects today, but I haven't yet. We'll see what happens. So as usual, I like to start out my wrap-ups with some statistics from my month, which includes page numbers, types of books that I read, where the author was from, star ratings, things like that. So let us get started with the fun part, which is the statistics. So in the month of October, as I said, I read 10 books, which came to about 3,608 pages or 120 pages a day. Of the books that I read, one was a hardcover, 2 were mass market paperbacks, 2 were trade paperbacks, 3 of them were audios, and 1 was an ebook. In terms of years published, I read 1 from the 1930s, and the rest were published after 2000. In terms of star rating, I had a pretty good reading month. I had 1 5-star book, 1 4.5-star book, 6 4-star books, and 2 3.5-star books. In terms of where the author hailed from, I read 6 from authors who were from the United States, 2 books were from an author that was from New Zealand, and 2 books were from an author that was from the UK. In terms of the genre of the books that I read, 5 of them were fantasy, 3 of them were historical fiction, 1 of them was YA, and 1 of them was steampunk. So those were some of the statistics from the books that I read this month, and now let's get into the important part, which is my mini reviews and what I thought of them. So now that I have told you guys some of the statistics for my reading month, I would like to tell you guys what I thought of them and what the books were about, because that is how wrap-ups work. Yes. So the first book that I finished in October was an audiobook, and that was Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. I love Juliet Marillier. I loved her Seven Wars trilogy. I read that a long time ago, and I haven't really picked up any of her other books, so I decided to rectify that. It happened to be available on Overdrive, so I went ahead and listened to it, and it was fabulous. Wildwood Dancing takes place in Romania, and it follows a set of 5 sisters. It's based on the fairy tale 12 Dancing Princesses, I bet, and it also has other fairy tale influences in it that I can't tell you because it will give away a plot point because it'll be really obvious when I say what fairy tale it is. But it follows these 5 sisters, and they have the ability to travel to the other world, the world of the Fae. And every full moon they travel to this other world and they dance with the Fae folk, the fair folk. But one day some mysterious strangers appear, and the oldest sister Tati ends up falling in love with one of them. Jenna ends up having to take over the family shipping business while their father is away trying to recover his ill health, trying to protect her sister from the strangers who could potentially be harmful, as well as trying to protect the family estate from her nasty cousin who is not only trying to court her but also kind of trying to take over the family business while their father is away. So Jenna is the main character, the main protagonist that they follow as she kind of struggles navigating protecting her sister from these mysterious fae folk, protecting her other sisters from harm, managing the family business, all the while some family secrets, stuff from the past ends up kind of meeting and culminating in this story. I really, really enjoyed it. Juliet Marillier's writing is just really, really beautiful and lyrical. It is definitely one of my new favorite fae stories. I love fae stories, and this one was fantastic. I love the location, taking place in like the mountains of Romania. It was just really, really, really good. Some of the things I didn't like about it, there was a case of insta-love, particularly in the case of Jenna's sister, and it was also that kind of trope where, you know, she might not end up with him, so she's just going to slowly waste away because she can't be with her one true love, which really annoyed me. It didn't annoy me as much because Tati wasn't the main character, she was a side character. It would have definitely bugged me a lot more if it had been Jenna. Jenna, however, was a very strong female protagonist, thought for herself, wasn't going to have anybody else tell her what to do, and wasn't going to listen to any man. She was just going to do what she believed in. So I really like Jenna as a main character. I did not really like the tropey, I'm going to waste away because I can't be with my love thing that was going on. That was probably my main annoyance and the reason that I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed this book, and as I said, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished was City of Dragons by Robin Hobb, the 3rd book in the Rain Wilds Chronicles. I don't want to say too much about this because it is the 3rd book in the series, so it will give a lot away, but needless to say, the adventure continues with the Keepers and their dragons and Captain Lefterin and Elise, and just things start to culminate and you start to learn a lot more about the Elderlings and what their role was in this world before whatever happened wiped them out. So quite interesting. And I also ended up reading Blood Dragons, the 4th book in the Rainbow Chronicles, which was the end of this series. Overall, I ended up rating these books 4 stars for City of Dragons and 3.5 for Blood Dragons, and the series in general about 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite series by Robin Hobb. I just didn't feel as engrossed in the story. I didn't feel as invested in the characters. It was still good. Her writing is still very good. I just felt it was the most dull of her books. So I ended up rating it 3.5 out of 5 stars for the whole series. And I have done a spoiler-free discussion and review video, which I'll link down below in case you guys are interested in hearing about that. Some of the things I did like about this series, however, and these 2 books in particular, were that we learned a lot more about the Elderlings and we learned a lot more about the dragons, both of which were topics that I find interesting in all of her books. So I like getting a little bit more of a back history. I also like that she introduced a lot of diverse characters in this series. There is queer characters introduced in this series who are main characters, which include Cedric and 2 of the Hunters and 1 of the Keepers. So I really enjoy that she introduced more diverse characters into her books, and she deals with a lot of social issues in her books, which I really appreciate. In this book series in particular, she definitely deals with living in a society that oppresses homosexuality and the effects that that has on people. She also deals with slavery and feminism issues and things like that. So I really appreciate that about Robin Hobb's books. So that was quite nice. But in terms of the story in general, though, I just was not as invested in the story. I definitely prefer the Lifeship Traders trilogy and the books that have to do with Fitz and the Fool, which I will be starting next month. So again, I rated this one 4 out of 5 stars and this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished in the month of October was a reread for me, and it was so good to be back in this world, and that was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm going to try and reread this and the trilogy before the end of the year. I used to reread these every year, but I haven't the past few, so I was due for a reread. So it's been several years since I've read The Hobbit, and it was so good. I left it at its 5 out of 5 star rating. I just find it to be so enjoyable, and I just love Middle-earth, and I love Bilbo. He's hilarious. However, I did end up becoming even more annoyed with the Hobbit movies after reading this, because I hadn't read The Hobbit for a while when those movies were coming out. This has probably been I don't know, 4 or 5 years since I've read The Hobbit. So I didn't remember a whole lot of what happens because it's been so long. So I enjoyed the movies, but now I hate them because they changed so much. So there was that. But the story itself remains just as good as I always remembered it, and I kept it at its 5 out of 5 star rating. The next audiobook that I listened to this month was Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. This was also the Year of Cosmere book of the month. I really, really like this one. I think it's actually my favorite Mistborn novel. It takes place about 300 years after the end of the Mistborn trilogy, and it features Wax and Wayne, who are 2 law-fighting citizens. They kind of protect the law, and they're kind of like freelance lawmen almost. Wax himself has returned home. He has inherited his estate after the death of his family, and so he has to kind of take up the reins of running the household and getting married and becoming involved in the politics of the nobility. But some very strange events are occurring. Nobility are being kidnapped, including his future bride-to-be, and so he sets out with his old partner Wayne and his future bride's cousin to figure out what is going on and why these rich women are being kidnapped. So I really enjoyed this one a lot more than the Mistborn novels. It was just full of a lot of adventure, and it was very Wild West feel, which I really enjoyed. One thing I felt was a little bit unbelievable about this series is that it takes place 300 years after the end of the Mistborn, and suddenly they have like electricity and trains and all this technology that I feel like it would have been a little bit difficult to develop in 300 years time. I don't know, maybe that would be explained more in the later novels. I still have to read the other Cosmere books, so maybe it's explained in that. But to me it felt a little bit hard to believe that they would have that much technological development in 300 years. But other than that, I found the story itself to be very enjoyable. I really like Wax, and I love Wayne. Wayne was a hilarious character, and I really appreciated his humor. So I really enjoyed this one, and I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I completed in October is one that I'm pretty sure everyone read, and that is Magnus Chase, The Sword of Summer, the first book in the Magnus Chase series. I absolutely love this one. This one is now my favorite Brandon Sanderson book. I can finally say that. I absolutely loved it. It follows Magnus Chase, who is this homeless boy, and he ends up finding out that he is the son of a Norse god. So this one deals battles with the Norse gods, and he ends up dying and having to go to Asgard, where all heroes are sent to live out their lives. But he ends up getting caught up in this plot that involves the Sword of Summer, the sword that belonged to his father. He has to retrieve it and stop doomsday from happening, and it was fabulous. It was full of a lot of humor and a lot of adventure, and I just absolutely adored it to bits. He also introduces a lot of diverse characters. He introduces a young Muslim character. He introduces a character who is deaf and mute and uses ASL, American Sign Language, and I just really liked it. I love Magnus. He was super sassy and smart-assy. Like, he was definitely a little bit more cutting, I think, than Percy Jackson. Like, definitely a little bit more harsh in his humor, but I just thought it was so entertaining, and I thought he was hilarious. Plus, I really like this cover. I think this is my favorite of Rick Riordan's covers. But yeah, as I said, I enjoyed it, and I ended up rating it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was one of my creepy reads for the month, and that is A Contrary Tale of the Butterfly Girl by Ishbel B. This is the second in the John Lovehart Esquire books. She's really into long titles. This is kind of a historical fiction novel with some paranormal elements. So it primarily follows John Lovehart, who at a young age was taken to be raised by the devil, basically. But now he's out on his own. He is the lord of the underworld, and he's coming into his inheritance, and he gets some very mysterious powers that go along with that. He's also investigating this interesting tale of the butterfly girl and what that mystery means and how it's affecting people in this little village. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first book, which is Mir and Goliath. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as that one. It has a really dark humor, this series, which I enjoy, and it's definitely kind of creepy. This one was definitely more creepy than the first one, but for some reason I just didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't know if it's because not a whole lot happened compared to the other one, or if it was just a little bit too gruesome for me. It was definitely more dark than the last one. If you want a comparison as to what these books remind me of, it's definitely very Neil Gaiman-esque, perhaps even slightly creepier than Neil Gaiman. I haven't read all of his works though, so maybe he has some super creepy stuff like this one, but this one was definitely creepy. Not my favorite, not the worst, but I still enjoyed it, and I ended up rating it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was another audiobook, and that was Sibyll's Secret by Juliet Marillier. This is actually the second book in the Wildwood series. It's like a duology, I believe, but they can be read separately. This one follows one of the younger sisters, Paula, as she has to travel with her father to Turkey to retrieve a very strange artifact. But she herself ends up becoming involved in this land's fae folk and their plot, and she has to unravel this mystery surrounding this mysterious object that her father is bartering on, which is a statue of Cybele, this ancient god. So she ends up becoming involved in figuring out what the other world, what this fae world wants her to do, and how she needs to retrieve the statue, and how she needs to help her father. So with the help of her bodyguard Stoyan and the very dashing pirate captain Duarte, she ends up enlisting their help eventually to kind of figure out what she needs to do and to go on this adventure and to help her sister Tati, who is also residing in the other world now. So it was definitely a very enjoyable story. I didn't enjoy it as much as Wildwood Dancing, but it was still a lot of fun. I like Paula. Paula was really into learning, and she wanted to start her own book business. She didn't care that she was a girl, and she definitely wants to do her own thing and stand up for herself. So I really enjoyed her character. The story itself wasn't as engaging, I think, as Wildwood Dancing, but I still really enjoyed it. There was also kind of a little bit of a love triangle there where you couldn't quite tell if she was going to go for Stoyan or Duarte. I mean, it wasn't the worst love triangle I've ever read, because it wasn't like she was actually fawning over both of them. There was just like this, oh, who she's going to choose kind of a thing going on in the story, which I found a little bit distracting. I'm like, just, if you're going to choose somebody, just choose someone. So that was a little bit annoying, but I still really enjoyed it, and it was just a lot of fun, and I really liked Juliet Marillier's books and just how she handles the fae. So I enjoyed it, and I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Second to last book that I read this month was Changeless by Gail Carriger, the second book in the Parasol Protectorate series. This, I don't want to give too much away because it picks up pretty much exactly where Solus left off. So we're back with Alexia Terabati, and she's investigating this curious humanization epidemic that's going on. It's making vampires and werewolves mortal again, and it's very strange, and she ends up getting caught up into why this is happening, as well as dealing with spies. Spies are attacking her, trying to figure out who that is and why and what's going on. They also introduced the character of Madame LeFou, who is this queer inventor, and I really like Madame LeFou. She was quite hilarious, kind of did her own thing. I mean, this is Victorian era, and she was wearing pants, which is like so scandalous, but it was hilarious. I really like Madame LeFou's character, and it was just a lot of fun. We also have more of Ivy in this book, and of course some more of Lord Macon, and it was just a really fun adventure. I actually like this one even better than Solus, and the ending was such a Oh, cliffhanger, I'm so mad about the ending. So I need to get Blameless soon because I need to know what's going to happen. I'm not very happy with some of the characters right now, and I'm hoping that it will get resolved in Blameless. So I need to get on that soon, hopefully in November. So I enjoyed this one even more than Soulless and ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. The last book that I completed this month was Death of Dolgath by Michael J. Sullivan, the third book in the Rhaeria Chronicles series by Michael J. Sullivan. It just got released on ebook this month. There will be a hardcover book coming out December 1st, but I couldn't wait, so I had to get the ebook. This is the third in the series of Royce and Hadrian's prequel novels, and in this one they travel to Dolgath, where they are tasked with figuring out how they can assassinate Lady Dolgath, but they're not actually tasked to assassinate her. People are hiring them to figure out if an assassin was to assassinate her, how they would go about doing it so they can protect her. So it was definitely an interesting story. It had a lot of twists and turns I didn't quite expect, and I really enjoyed the ending to this one. I love being back with Royce and Hadrian. I love their bromance. Those two crack me up. So I always enjoy reading about those two characters. It isn't my favorite of the Chronicles books. I actually think that The Rose and Thorn, the second one, is my favorite, but this one was still good. Still love Royce and Hadrian. Michael J. Sullivan is a fabulous fantasy author, and I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. Alright guys, that is it for the books that I have actually completed this month, and I have started to read 2, but I don't know if I'll be able to finish them before the end of the month, but I want to include them. The first one is Innocent Mage by Karen Miller. I am buddy reading this with Connor from Connor O'Brien. This is his first time reading it, but a reread for me. However, it's been about 6 years, so I don't remember a whole lot of what happens in this book, so it's kind of like reading it new again. It follows Asher, who travels from the coast to the city to kind of make his fortune and help out his father, and he kind of gets caught up in this certain plot with this group called the Circle, and somehow he has been prophesized to come, but he doesn't know that, and he's definitely an interesting character, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I seem to be enjoying it just as much as I remember enjoying it the first time. The next one that I have finished, and I was hoping to get done today, but I don't know if it's going to happen, and that is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I was reading this as one of the hosts for the Creepy Long Read Along, so I really need to finish it soon. The problem is I've only been 30 pages into it, and I'm really not enjoying it. Just not my story, and I don't much care for her writing. It's, I don't know. I need to finish it. I heard it gets better, so I just need to stick with it and get it done. So this may or may not be finished this month. If not, you'll be seeing it again next month's video. Alright guys, that is it for my rather long October wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed it. You'll have to let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. And you'll have to let me know what your favorite book was for the month of October. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!